Soundstripe.
Welcome to South End Supporters, a St. Louis City SC podcast powered by Ready to Live Wellness, coming at you from the Warrior Logo Wear studio. David Heck alongside Eric Cole as the Monday morning center back is on assignment this evening. We won't have him in studio with us, just the two of us. It's like old times again.
So if you're here to hear, a cooking, going on in the background or, anything like that, hate to disappoint you tonight, but the Monday morning center back's cooking show has been postponed to.
That had so much potential last week to be so good, and it just wasn't. Like, the quality wasn't good. I don't know what was going on with the internet. I thought we'd hear more sizzling. We didn't hear that. There was some background noise, but not what I had hoped for. When I think about the Monday morning center back hosting a cooking show during this podcast, it just seems like it would have been gold. It left a little bit to be desired, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think once the camera went off, that's when, the expectations kind of simmered, pun unintentional.
Very good. Very good.
It kind of, I think that's when because we wanted to know, I wanted to know, is he in there sweating? Is he on a time frame? Does he got to get this done? I almost wanted it to, be like a cooking show to where I wanted to know what he was adding and all the accoutrements that he was bringing to the table.
Yeah, it would have been nice. It would have been nice.
Unfortunately, I think since he had the earbuds in, half the time he couldn't hear us asking said questions, and then he also had us on mute, and he would forget which times to unmute to talk. So it's got potential. We'll start.
It does. It does. So over under on Gorski listening on this show, 15 seconds. You think he tunes in, turns off immediately when he finds out that double MCB is not on?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, first off, he already knows he's not on because it's Dave, just on his own burner account anyway.
True.
So we already know. He already knows that he's not going to be on there. But yeah, I mean, maybe he didn't have to go to his kid's game tonight. Maybe him and Gorski are just
God, wouldn't that be something?
They're out getting flats together. Apparently, that's what they're doing.
Wow. Well, there'll be plenty of them in restaurants because nobody likes to order those. It always costs a little extra to get more drummies, as you know.
Which, yes, I sent that meme. Recent news popped up that a prison guard was arrested because he ended up getting found out that he was selling wings to the inmates. And the reason he got found out was because somebody ratted on him because he started out at $6 a wing. And then bumped up his prices once he realized how popular it was. He had $15 going for flats, but $20 for drummies, which I think settles the debate on what is the, he always talked about us being Neanderthals, the way we eat our drummies and that type of. I think that just goes to show that shows the higher quality and what people really will pay for, I think, as far as goes.
Definitely. And I think, too, when you're in prison, you probably don't have access to a lot of, napkins. Anyway, so you're probably wanting a cleaner wing, and there's just no debate on that. Even if you like flats better, I refuse to think anyone could make an argument for that being a cleaner wing. It just doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want slippery hands when you're in prison. I would anticipate that you want to have a good grasp on everything going on around your sir.
Big news coming from the world of Major League Soccer here this past week is that the MLS competition calendar has changed a bit and will begin regular season play in August following 2026 season, so 2027, 2028 season. So we'll skip some summer months here. I'm curious, Eric, to get your thoughts. I've got my thoughts on it as well. I guess the season technically would kick off in late July, I think it is, not August, so I misspoke. But regardless, you're going to have – it's kind of wonky, I'll be honest with you. So I'll give you my perspective on it here in just a bit, but I know that this will align better with the international break. I tend to think it has something to do with Messi not wanting to play in the summer in Miami, so they're going to shift the schedule around for him, but neither here nor there. Eric, as an international football fan, this seems to be more in line with what you're seeing globally, but it is unique to the country here domestically. I'm curious to get your perspective, and then I'd love to share with you mine.
Yeah, this is definitely, I would say the biggest change that really the league's really ever made is changing the entire calendar year. I think the main reason that they're trying to do it is to, obviously they say they want to be the same as the rest of the leagues around the world, but I think really it comes down to just transfer market and trying to get that a little bit more clear, because you got a lot of players that, will sign contracts till middle of June typically, and then, that's a lot of times where we're kicking mid-season off. So then you're having to try to renegotiate like loan deals and all sorts of stuff midweek. So as far as the transfer market, yes, I'm for it. If you're, definitely not a fan of, warmer nights in City Park, as I think we've discussed, you are not a fan of those. This is definitely going to be your kind of like you're digging this. I'm fine with it. I think this has just always kind of been now I will say it was a little nice to have something to kind of help preoccupy the summer months, because, if it's just baseball, that can get, having the MLS was a nice little assistance throughout the summer months of having other things to kind of hold your interest as far as sports wise goes. My big concerns are two, and they're more dealing with the colder months. So what they're doing, though, is about mid-December till about, looks like the first week of February, they're taking a complete winter break. And I'm not a fan with that. So typically over in Europe, they'll have, like currently right now, most leagues are on a pause at the top level because they're doing the international break. And this is typically when you'll see international friendlies, or during this break in particular, World Cup qualifying. You may see that for, like Euro qualifying whenever it's that sort of year. So, but what they'll do is they'll do 2-week break for that. Then they'll come back, play a couple weeks, and then another 2-week break, and then they're done for the rest of the year. As frustrating as that is, I don't know if I like a full, almost like 2 months break middle of the season. Like we talked all the time about how teams going into like Leagues Cup break a lot of times could be on fire and then come out of Leagues Cup break and just their season tanks because of just being off for that amount of time. So my concern is, like, why such a long break? Like, I know you want to try and have it align. The other reason I know is obviously certain areas of the country get just blistering cold, and as well as weather elements, rain, and, obviously around here we have to deal with a little bit more inclement weather, but typically throughout the country, doesn't get overly crazy hot, and you obviously play through rain. Heavy snow and ice could be a totally different factor if it's, you can't get that field cleared, you can't see the lines. So I want to know during this, because all this is being talked about for, like you said, the 27 season. That's when it's going to kick into play. So as far as next year and the whole 26 season, that's still going to play with the normal schedule. Once the season ends in whatever November, you're going to just have a long break before, towards the end of the July. So basically, while the other seasons are taking their second half of the season, we'll be on a break. But there was rumors going around of, if you find yourself in a colder atmosphere, St. Louis being one of those where you are more inclined to getting like higher amounts of ice and snow or below frigid temperatures. There were talks about during those months, like, the February's, the December's, kind of weeding out your home games and more sending you out on the road to more warmer clients. So I also don't like if that's the case, because let's just say you go on an almost 2 months long break and then you don't even get to play at home for a couple weeks as well. Like, that can really throw a wrench in some people's season. Now, that was just kind of being discussed. I don't think that's, going into play. But the other thing is, like, with a lot of Europe's, anyway, top teams that can afford it, those stadiums have heated pitches to help, if it does snow or anything like that, it keeps, from any frost hanging on the grass, or, easier to clear if it is a heavy snow. Like, is there going to be any money from the MLS allocated towards these teams to be able to help fund that? Was that something in the agreement that MLS owners agreed upon? Like, I just still have a lot of questions with, this. But as far as just straight up front, everything we know now, my only quips are just how long just a straight league winter break could be. So if there's other things, it says there, the MLS is continuing to work with the MLS PSA to finalize agreement plan on transition and all that type of stuff, which there's some other stuff we'll talk about here in a little bit. But as far as just this upfront, I'm good with it. I think just because it aligns with the rest of the seasons. The nice thing also, too, with Europe being, you'll still have – it won't really conflict as far as, having to choose between watching a Premier League game or MLS game, because typically MLS games are in our evenings, whereas Premier League and all the other top leagues are typically during our day. So it doesn't sound like they'll have any straight MLS competition. But so as far as just all that, I'm good with it. I was on the outside boat compared to you two, where I preferred the hot games compared to the frigid cold games. But I think rather than investing in shorts that'll match with city gear going forward, it's time to start looking at some nice warm snowboard boot socks and warm pants.
So here's my thought on it. I was looking this up as you were talking about potentially having to play games away from your home if you were in a cold weather climate. There's 2 dome stadiums in the MLS, I believe. It's Vancouver and it's Atlanta. Atlanta, regardless, right, would be able to play.
Does Seattle's stadium?
Seattle's outdoor.
It doesn't enclose?
No.
Oh, okay.
So the and Seattle is a unique climate because it is in the Northwest, but it doesn't get the heavy snow that some of these places get. Most of this league would be in colder weather climates once you get into, especially early February. Obviously, you're taking off sometime there in December and then the entire month of January. But there's going to be a lot of time for snow the beginning of December and the beginning of January or beginning of February, throughout February, parts of early March even. When you think about just kind of going down the list, Minnesota, outdoors, they're all outdoor, right? But Real Salt Lake, that's going to be a snowy one. Mm-hmm. Toronto, SKC is going to get the same weather we're going to get. Colorado is going to snow. Chicago, New England, Columbus, New York, both New York teams, right? Portland, not as bad. CF Montreal is outdoor. So at Philadelphia, right? Cincinnati, there are plenty of places that aren't below the Mason-Dixon line that are going to get a lot of cold. That's most of the league we just named off, outside of the LA teams, Dallas, and even Dallas can get kind of cold. Houston, Austin. So for the most part, the league will experience a lot of snow around that time. But that to me is not my concern with it. And my concern is twofold, and it's more so for the health of the league itself. Taking the fan element out of it and how comfortable or uncomfortable we may be at matches during the heat or during the cold, mine is twofold. One, I think the big differentiator between the United States and other countries around the world is that these other countries don't have to compete with other sports domestically. And while competing with baseball is something you've done in the summer, baseball's played every day, and we know the season lasts a really long time, and there are overlaps with baseball and other sports, football especially, and hockey, and parts on the front end and the back end there for football. But for soccer, having to now go head-to-head throughout September, October, November, part of December with the NFL, and then go head-to-head for even longer with the NHL and the NBA, all leagues that are much more popular than the MLS in the United States, it's concerning to me to think that the league will struggle to grow. Now, that's point one. Point two, and this is a counterpoint to that one, we'll get into it just a second, they are making it more accessible for people to watch games. If you have Apple TV moving forward, you should be able to see them because they are doing away with the MLS season pass. Now, that tells me, just logically speaking, that probably was a failed experiment. It just didn't work. They didn't get the numbers they thought that they were going to get. and they're looking to just tap into whatever Apple users they can get and get it to grow. I am still in the camp, and I will die on this hill, that in order for the game to grow internationally, you need a regional broadcast of your local team on a regional sports network and or some kind of big TV deal with ESPN or Fox. Now, granted, there are games that get played on Fox, but it's like one a week. And, it's a Sunday night or whatever it is, right? So I think that they're struggling and they're missing the boat continually there on that front. So that is my number one concern, is that having to compete with those three other sports. And by the way, you're still competing with baseball throughout August, throughout September, throughout October. Now you're going to compete with the Major League Baseball playoffs and football and the beginning of basketball and hockey in October. That's going to be really, really challenging, I think. So that is number one. Number two,
well, real quick to that point.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just while we're on, do you think with everything that they're discussing, or just with those points, lining it up with the international transfer market windows and everything like that, their idea is our best chance to continue to grow this game or this league is international. And that's where they're looking at, hey, we're not – I'm just spitballing here, but maybe they're looking at it as, look, we're not making up ground on, the NFL or the NBA. So why even bother, let's focus more on internationally. And this is their step with the MLS season pass, is like, let's start weaning down this contract, ride out this contract, and then we make it more globally, accessible to. Do you think to that point where I think they have to be realistic and can't be thinking like, hey, this league is growing since Messi's come. We could go head to head with the NFL and the NBA and the NHL, because I can't imagine those numbers are really close at this moment in time. It could get to that point if it continues to grow at that trajectory, but it can't. So they're looking at it as our best bet to grow would be internationally, and that's their focus.
It's a good point. I mean, and it sucks if that's the thought process. It'd be a great question for Don Garber, like just flat out asking him that, because that could be the case, right? If you're going to have a transfer window that aligns better with the world game, then potentially, theoretically anyway, these players that were on larger teams internationally will now bring that audience in, which then would do away with the need for some sort of large national TV contract or regional TV contracts in local markets. So correct, that could very well be the case. The other point to this is, the game still has to grow domestically, right? Like, that is important. The other thing that people aren't talking about as much, because you see NFL, you see NBA, you see NHL get posted a lot, but there's two other giants out there that now you're going to be going head to head with, and that's college football and college basketball, which are both bigger than soccer in the United States. So now you really have 5 different leagues or sports or organizations, however you want to word it, that you're having to go up and compete against. So you think about parts of the country that, are just absolute college football crazy. Austin, you've got Atlanta, anything in the South primarily, parts of Tennessee, right? Like Texas, right? All their communities that are going to have, now you got to go play games on Saturday nights in October, whenever, you might have a Longhorns game to compete against in Austin. Like, man, that's a challenge too. I don't know if they're thinking, and it's a great point that you raise. Like, I don't know if they're thinking domestically as much, and they're thinking more, we need to expand this to the global market. And maybe that is the case. So that is point number one. Point number two, I'm with you on the winter break. I don't understand it. I couldn't imagine any other sport doing this. They'll probably try to fill it, I would think, with some sort of a tournament. I don't know where the League's Cup fits into this. They've done that historically, in July? Now the season would be kicking off at that point.
Well, they just switched that whole format, too. So I can't imagine, going 1 year of switching it, and then the next, in 2 years, they switch it all again. So, the League's Cup was a little earlier than the Open Cup. As far as early rounds,
so strange, right? So that's something to think about. They may look to fill that winter break with some sort of a tournament, but it loses to me, and this goes sort of in line with your point that you made earlier. I don't worry as much about the teams losing momentum. I worry about the popularity of the sport and the league losing momentum. You know, the teams, yeah, that is one thing for sure, but it's all level. Like everybody would be under the same break, so momentum is kind of relative in that capacity a bit. But if I'm watching a TV show and I'm watching it episodically, week by week, and it takes a 2-month hiatus essentially,
yeah,
it's gonna. I mean, I may not pick that back up when it returns, right? I might move on for something else. Like, 100%. And that is just me putting casual fan hat on, right? Like, yeah, the hardcores aren't going anywhere, but you don't. And this is something that we've talked about. You don't have to capture the hardcore. The hardcore fan is going to be all in no matter what. You're not going to lose that person, but to grow it, you have to get casual fan interest, and it needs to be something that everyone embraces. Otherwise, it's going to struggle. So I don't like the winter break. I don't like having to compete with other teams, or with other sports, I should say. Those are my two arguments about it. I understand the purpose of doing it. Every good point, I get it. Like, I understand the reason behind it. I think you bring up probably the most interesting point is that, look, we need to grow it internationally, and that's that. But having to compete against other sports, because even like the EPL doesn't have to compete against those sports in the United States, because the EPL matches are on at 7:00 in the morning, 10:00 in the morning. Like, you're not competing against anything. You can watch all your EPL and then get ready for NFL. Like, you can have a long Sunday. I'm sure you do that. I'm sure a lot of people do that, right? Mm-hmm. I've done it. Wyckoff does it. Like, a lot of people do that. They watch soccer in the morning, then they're turning on the NFL. But in the United States, it doesn't work that way. We're not playing games at 7 a.m. We're playing games at 7 p.m. And that's going to be right in the middle of other events. So I think it'll be hard. I hope it works, but I think it'll be tough.
Yeah. I just worry it's too much, with the Messi effect is really just trying to capture it. But you got to look at, even when this goes into effect, he'll be in his final year. I think his contract goes till 2028. So right. I know we're attracting more and more stars like Mueller and Son and all that type of stuff. But that's just what I'm seeing is the thought process too much international and not growing it. Like you said, my worry with that break is, it'll be probably filled with international friendlies, but international friendlies just don't hit the same way here as it does, over there. I mean, again, you're talking about the die hard, but if you're just talking about getting you keep bringing it up, and it's a great point, the casual fan interested in the league, it's going to be tough for them to. Hell, we talked about this, a couple weeks ago, where even now that City's not in the playoffs, it's tough on some Saturday nights where it's like, all right, I got the Blues game, I've got college football going on a good head-to-head here, NBA's kicking up, there's a lot of, you need, like, even me as a diehard, it's like, I told Kristen the other night, I was like, man, I would love to have just a South End stand set up where I got 4 TVs in here and I can hit all of them going. I don't think, and that's me as soccer's my number one. And we're still riding out the Apple thing. So then you also have to hope that casual fan, let's just go ahead and get it. Well, we'll get to the Apple thing here a little bit later, because I have more questions on that to you. But like, I just am concerned. There's a lot of still questions that come from this that, haven't, is there going to be more? My couple questions are, what's like you said, the sole purpose of what do you think is this to grow the game internationally and more domestic? Like, what's your line of thinking when it comes to this other than the transfer market? And then 2, like, is there going to be extra money allocated to these teams with these stadiums already for field care and, all that type of stuff that's going to, be tough we know, like, the first couple games at City Park, that field has been covered all winter, and it takes a few games for it to kind of get into its match flow where it's perfectly groomed and all that type of stuff. So is that going to be solely on the clubs to provide that sort of funding towards that, or is there going to be some league allocated money towards, there's just, I'm good with it, but still with a lot of questions going forward off that. And
it'll play out. Like we'll get it answered, and it probably will work out. It probably will work out okay. It's just I don't know. It's just like with anything. There's sports that have, for whatever reason, taken off 100 years ago here, and it's so ingrained in the culture that it's hard. It's hard for a league that is relatively new in the landscape of things, and certainly new in the way that it is played today, and the number of teams and the investment they've put into it. It's just hard for it to catch on. I just get concerned that they're going about it the wrong way. And I think that people that are thinking about the positives of it, and are like ignoring the potential negatives, are the hardcore, right? And they're like, look, yeah, of course this is great. Like this is okay, yes, but you have to recognize, like you have to embrace the casual fan. If you don't have the casual fan getting into this, it will never take off like it could potentially.
I think, and there's also just a little bit of hesitancy. Curious to get your opinion. I'm trying to think now, as far as like the major sports within America, has there been a bigger change to a league than this one? Like this is and normally when we get changes, we get little ones here and there, the pitch clock, and it's kind of tested out and we see how that goes. And you still have people that hate that. Or it's typically like little rule changes here or there that have been tested. You still have people who are if or that. But, I mean, this is a complete overhaul of a schedule and when things are played, and it could have potential of, possible home games and when they happen. And then there's another thing that they're being voted on, which we'll talk about next. But, like, can you think of any other, like, major change such as this? I can't personally think of one, at least – within our lifetime, of any other major sport that has done like a complete just season overhaul like this.
Not with a schedule like this, right? Like you've seen the NFL add games, you've seen Major League Baseball, although it's been a really long time, subtract and then add games. You've seen strikes shortened seasons. Like there's been things, right, that have happened, but never like this. No, not to my knowledge anyway. So it is unique. I mean, it's a gamble. There's a reason why they're doing it. There's a reason why any rules get changed. There's a reason why Major League Baseball put in larger bases. There's a reason why they did a pitch clock. There's a reason why they're experimenting at the AAA level with automated balls and strikes. Like there's a reason why all this stuff is happening. There's a reason why the NBA put the 3-point line in years ago, right? There's reasons for all of it, and and most of the time there's a reason why the NHL did away with a 2-line pass. It's another good example of a major rule change. Rule changes happen because for whatever reason we think we can improve upon the game, and for the most part I think it does. I think it does improve upon it. This is unique because you're talking about a complete schedule overhaul, and only time will tell if it's gonna benefit the league or not. I don't know.
Yeah, I think as far as just straightforward, I think as far as the owners and just bringing in talent, which will obviously then continue to help grow their team, which will then hopefully grow the team. I think as of right now, I think it's a good move. We always said it was so confusing figuring out opposite transfer windows and all that type of stuff. I think having that line with the major leagues around the world, I think, is their main focus on this, and I think that's going to be hopefully, beneficial and works out in their favor. But another thing that is being discussed along with this, now to my knowledge, as of today, this still hasn't been voted on and confirmed. But one thing they are talking about right now is the MLS is moving to a single table format in 2027 with 6 teams in 5 divisions. So it looks like there's like a Northwest, a Southwest, a Midwest, Northeast, and Southeast as well. So 5 divisions, 6 teams in each division. And what it would be is a single table. So like you see in any other league where, you got 20 teams in the league, just a single table from top to bottom rather than East, West divisions, that type of stuff. And the way they're talking about how it would work is that you would, within your division, you would schedule a home and away series with the other 5 teams within your division, and then you would play the rest of the league once, alternating years of home and away. So similar to what we kind of do with majority of the teams in the Eastern Conference currently. So the way this map is kind of broken up as of right now, St. Louis City would be in a division with SKC, Minnesota, Chicago, Columbus, and Cincinnati. The interesting part of this, though, is the divisions really have no effect on anything other than your schedule. Like, as far as like where you finish in the table or anything like that, it sounds like it's still going to be 32 teams and the top 16 make it. Their logic is, pretty much if you win your division, like you'll get like a little bit of like, I guess they're trying to say like we won the Central Division this year. You know, it doesn't really mean anything, but you can hang your hat on that. Their logic is, if you win a division, you're probably qualifying for the playoffs.
Yeah, I think the other thing, the reason why, using the EPL as example, right? The reason why the EPL table works out is because you've got the perfect amount of teams to play the perfect amount of games to where you play everybody twice, and it works out that way. Correct?
So yes, but my line of thinking with this is, but the big thing with the EPL is obviously they have left teams 20 compared to our two.
Right.
I think this is getting things in motion for a possible future pro rel.
Yeah.
So that it's getting to where it's just the table, and they're still sticking with the playoffs because they want to keep it Americanized. But I think this is just kind of setting things up for a possible, once enough teams and once enough things kind of go, we can start to introduce the whole pro rel type.
Well, it looks like, to the point that I was making there, is that you've got this perfect number of teams in the EPL to play the perfect number of games to where everybody gets played twice. This is the US's version of that, right? You have a way to, like, the divisions for all intents and purposes mean nothing, but it does create some regional rivalries, which I've been saying is a miss for how it's aligned currently. You've got SKC, but you don't have Chicago, you don't have Columbus, you don't have Nashville, you don't have Cincinnati, you don't have teams that you can easily travel to because SKC and St. Louis are in the West, right? And these other teams are in the East. So you're only playing them once a year at most, and typically, you know, that may be on the road versus at home. So it doesn't create the rivalries as much. So this is good. Regionally, it makes a lot of sense to do it this way. It works out, I'm assuming, to where, to your point, you would then play the rest of the league one time, and you play everybody in your own division twice. So that's a good thing, too. So it works out perfectly mathematically for the schedule. And so I'm okay with it. I think it's better than the way they have it aligned right now, but that's a selfish argument because I think it makes more sense to keep things more geographically when you could think about taking a weekend trip somewhere and not having to stay up half the season on a Saturday night for a kickoff at 9:15 or 9:20 when you're playing Vancouver or you're playing Seattle or Portland or you name the LA team, right? So it's better that way for sure. The other thing is that you'd play everybody once, and some of those games would be at home, some of those games would be on the road, so you'd get an opportunity to see new teams coming in all the time, so it keeps that component of it as well, which is nice. As far as pro rel goes, I still don't know if it'll work here. I mean, I think the idea of it is cool. I think that it's obviously a huge part of international soccer, I call it football, I suppose, international football leagues that are out there. But here in the States, man, like I think about the initial teams that are here and the ownership groups that are here. Like, what does that do? Again, going back to the casual fan, if your team is not in the biggest league, right? What does that do for the ownership dollars? Like, you've bought into this league. It's not cheap to do it. And now all of a sudden, I mean, I feel like that could just absolutely tank a franchise. And I got to think that if you weren't in that top league any longer, that, again, casual speaking, not hardcore speaking, the supporter section's not going to go anywhere. But the guy that's sitting in section, 209, that just bought tickets off of SeatGeek, might not be coming to those games, that aren't on the biggest stage in the country. So I'm curious as to how it would play out. I'd like to see it. I think it's a great idea. I am a casual fan that actually thinks that it's a good thing for the sport potentially, but I do think that it would struggle to take off domestically, and I would like to see how it worked.
Yeah, I think if let's just say they go this route, I think positives would be you're a little bit closer to just a single table system, so it's just a little bit more. You can't ever. I guess it just is going to be, I think, a little bit more aesthetically pleasing just looking at one table and not having.
And to this point too is like, could it potentially shrink this schedule? Because that's another argument for the schedule the way that it is right now. I mean, it lasts like 10 months. Like, it's long, right? Well, you've got the break in there, obviously, but it expands from July to May. So you're essentially off June. Like, that's the 1 month of the season that at the end. So if you only had 20 teams, let's say, and you did it like the EPL, that schedule could be shorter. And then, you would have 20 teams, I suppose, or however many in the lower division at that point too, as it continues to expand. So having 20 teams versus 32 teams makes things a little bit easier to come by as well, because I would imagine, not knowing as much about the EPL, obviously, but this schedule, calendar-wise, goes longer than what they're doing in the EPL, correct?
No, it'll line up the same. The EPL will still actually play a little bit more games because they play 38 and we play 34. But then we have playoffs. I guess if you include playoff, since they don't have a playoff team. I guess depending on your team, you could be increasing, longer and that type of stuff. I think you brought up another good point, though, as far as the positives, is trying to build up these regional rivalries and getting that a little bit more into play and that type of stuff. Whereas, we don't really have the history that relies on that sort of, passion for rivalries like over in Europe does, where it's, these teams have won this many titles, this team has won that many titles, and that type of stuff. So I guess as far as regionally goes, my worry would be with it is you could have just a region that has a tank of a region, let's just say, and one team shines out. You could be sitting there going like, this team's struggling to get into the playoffs because of their region for the year or whatever, and that team. Where if it's a little bit more balanced, I feel like with this. But my other concern, going back to the point, if their line of thinking is to grow the game internationally, do you think this appeals to international players coming in, or do you think this would be something that they're like, that's confusing? Why do we play this team twice, but we maybe only play this team once? Like, what? I don't understand. Do you think that could hinder?
No, I think they would like it.
Seems like that is targeting more toward. You think that would be?
Yeah, I mean, because nobody. I think one of the detractors is just how massive we are geographically.
The travel. That's a big thing for international. I saw a map one time where it was like, it showed like what this team in England would be traveling if they went from LA to like whatever the playoff was at the time. I forget the matchup. But it was like they were almost touching like Russia or something.
Right. It's so big. So most countries out there, are not this big geographically. So if you think about, again, using the EPL as an example, most of those games are probably a relatively short bus ride away from one another.
Yeah.
Whereas here, if you're constantly having to go to the West Coast when you're a team in the Midwest, you don't really even appreciate that until you're here. Like, you don't understand how far that is. And so if you only have to make that trip every now and then, and most of the games you're playing are against teams within a handful of hours, it makes things a little bit easier. I mean, a flight from St. Louis to Chicago is like 50 minutes. A flight to Nashville is like 50 minutes. It's like, it's really quick. You're up and down. But a flight to Seattle, a flight to San Jose, a flight to LA, I mean, that's 4 to 5 hours in the air from St. Louis, right? We're not talking about going across the country. You could fly from New York to London in about the same amount of time as you could fly from Seattle to New York. Think about that, right? It's about the same distance. And that is I mean, it's crazy to think, but that's the case. So I think that it would attract people, and that, again, to your point, Eric, the more that I think about it, I think it's a really good point that you brought up. It probably does appeal more to folks internationally.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting. I think you'd find on this particular thing, I think it'd be divided right down the middle as far as people liking it, people not. I think it just the same with the winter schedule. I think it's got its positives. I think there's obviously going to be some draws to said thing, especially you got to be thinking too, if the schedule does change, and the rumor is that they're going to try and, avoid some games during those cold, frigid winter months in certain areas. Well, you're basically, alienating an entire region, on some of those.
Right.
If you look at that whole Midwest, they wouldn't see a home game throughout those months.
Oh, the Northeast, a lot of it, right?
About, the whole Northeast and stuff. So it'll be interesting. I do think one thing is if they do follow our advice, and the next team that they do, if they do ever add another team to the league, is Vegas. I think there should be almost an all-time home rule for Vegas. Like, it doesn't matter where you are, what region or anything. It's just automatically like Vegas only plays in Vegas to just continue. You want to talk about growing the game domestically?
Oh yeah,
just get a team going straight to Vegas.
I wonder where they would. I wonder if they would play at Allegiant Field there. I wonder if that's where their games would be at, or because I know they have a soccer field, but it's small. Is it
UNLV probably the field?
Yeah, but they have a professional team out there. They have a USL team or a. They have a team in Vegas for sure. But I just wonder if they really wanted to go. Like they would probably play at Allegiant Field. I would think.
I'd imagine
they'd probably
they
do the same thing as Atlanta
or Chicago. At least until maybe they get their own stadium, they play within there, and then they break out. Yeah. Eventually, if they get their own stadium and that type of stuff. But
God, I love Vegas. I'm going to Vegas again in February. I love that town. I can't get enough of it, and I don't think a lot of people feel that way anymore. Especially like our generation. When I go out there, it's a lot of boomers and like old Gen Xers. I don't think the millennials dig it as much as me, but I love it. I love that city. I love the vibe. We were out there in August, I think it was, and now we're going back in February. And I could go again at some point, not too long after I return. I can't get enough of it.
The only time I've ever stepped foot in Vegas is we had a connecting flight when we were out visiting family out in California that stopped in Vegas and then took off. So I still have never been. It's fun. I feel like there's a lot of major cities that like have that vibe. Never been to New Orleans, never been to Vegas. Like I feel like a lot of those vibes type, where you go there for a time. I haven't been. So
the Monday morning center back,
boring or what?
Monday morning center back and Mrs. Monday morning center back love New Orleans. I went to New Orleans with them once, and it is fun. It's a great city. It's in a lot of ways similar to Vegas. You don't have, obviously, the amount of casinos. That's kind of what Vegas is known for, and the shows and the nightlife and stuff that goes on out there too. But there are a ton of similarities between the two, and New Orleans is a great city and fun too. I don't know, something about the vibe, something about, it's like as soon as I get off the plane and I get into McCarran, I know they changed the name, it's not McCarran anymore, whatever it is now, the airport, I just immediately, like, my synapses are firing and I'm just like ready to go. I mean, I don't know. It's like a massive serotonin just like charge to my system, and I can't get enough of it.
Plus, I'm sure this is by design, but it seems like every time you do go out there, it's scheduled around like an awesome sports time. Like you're out there like a lot of times either during March Madness, you were out there that one year, or like in a week or something like that, like you'll be out there. So like, you got football, you've got college basketball kicking off, college football. You've got so many good sports going on.
Well, I'll be
you always go out there like during a good, like if you're a sports fan, a good like time.
We're going in February for my birthday, so there won't be like you'll have hockey, you'll have
Super Bowl,
basketball, Super Bowl will be over. Baseball hadn't started yet, so it's probably the worst time sports-wise to go because even like the tournament hasn't started yet. I mean, going out there for the NCAA tournament's fun. When I was out there in August, it was for opening weekend of college football, and so you had Texas and Ohio State playing, and and those games, man, they start at like 9 a.m. right? So it's like I kind of love that because then you have the rest of the day to just do whatever. But they're playing games all day long. So I'm really hoping they haven't announced the UFC schedule yet. I'm hoping maybe they'll have a fight out there when I'm there. I'll be there from the 26th to the 1st of March. So we'll see. But even if there's not, like there's just always something going on. We're gonna do a little different this year. We're gonna go check out a couple of the shows on the Strip. We've never done that before. I've never seen a show, like a real show in Vegas. Really? I've seen like comedy shows and a couple concerts, but I've never seen like an actual Vegas show. So we're going to do that. I know Sarah wants to do it. It'll be fun. But again, I can't get enough of the city. I love it. I could go out there. I don't know. You name the amount of times somebody could go somewhere, and I could go there that many times and more. I love it. Now, it gets expensive.
Yeah, for sure.
But if money wasn't an option, I would go there quite a bit. I don't think I could live there, but I could visit there pretty often.
Go out there to visit. Yeah, weirdly enough, I feel like one of the comedians or shows I would want to see if I do go out there is Carrot Top. He's grown on me so much over the years.
Yeah,
seeing
he's good.
More and more his jokes is hilarious. But I will say, if you do go out there and you do get to check out a UFC event, and you happen to notice that Dylan Dennis has moved and sat next to you, I would move because just nothing good is going to happen.
No, I will not be sitting next to Dylan Dennis. I promise you that.
Banned from all UFC events.
Yeah,
maybe they'll pull like a Portnoy where he starts wearing disguises.
Yeah. I mean, even to get into those UFC fights in Vegas, it's so expensive. Like I couldn't imagine sitting anywhere outside of like one of the top rows. And at that point, it's almost just you're there for the atmosphere because you probably get a much better view. I ended up watching the screen the whole time anyway. I've been to UFC shows in different cities. It's always fun. But to see it in Vegas right now, like how much price gouging goes on with live sporting events anyway, it's freaking brutal to just get in the door to one of those things. So I don't know. I've been out there for UFC events before. We have never been to one in Vegas. But just like watching them there in the sports book it's a pretty electric atmosphere. So I'm looking forward to it. I know this isn't a Vegas podcast, although I could host one if ever need be. But last thing we got to check off, we touched on it a bit, is this Apple MLS season pass change. Yep. I've got my thoughts. We've talked about it a little bit. We've spent a whole lot of time on this historically on this podcast. MLS season pass is going to go away, and you'll be able to watch events on your regular Apple TV subscription. Similarly, not to bring it back up, to what the UFC is doing with their partnership with Paramount Plus, I think, as they won't have pay-per-views anymore. So I'm curious. I mean, maybe they'll jack up the price a little bit for Apple. Maybe they won't. They'll keep it around $12-13, which is a pretty good value when you think about it. Getting all the Apple programming, which is pretty good, on top of the soccer matches in the MLS. Curious.
Yeah, I think initial first thought once you see it is, does that mean Apple's regular pricing is going to go up? I would imagine. Probably. That's their whole, they'll add something else and then they'll be like, and included in this new package is the MLS season you get here. I guess my question to you is, was the big argument, I don't know if you ever got like the big inside scoop with like a lot of like local bars or whatever, was the big argument for them not having MLS games on, was it solely the MLS season pass, or was it they don't have Apple? Because I know Apple has been trying to get into there's been a few Cardinal games that have been broadcast on there. Like, so has that opened up at least regionally more bars being inclined to at least have an Apple subscription? And if so, then that negates any sort of like excuse for not showing the games in the bars? Or was the argument always, we don't have an Apple subscription, that's why it's not, we just do basic or direct cable and all that? Like, have you ever gotten a direct answer as far as like which of the two it was the reasoning for them not going that route?
It's a great question, because if you remember, Albert Pujols hit a 700th home run on Apple TV, which and the call was bad. The presentation of it was bad. Like, it should have been Dan McLaughlin calling. I'm assuming McLaughlin was still on air at that time. I think he was.
Yeah, I think he was.
Or it should have been Chip Carey. Like, it should have been one of those two guys, or it should have been an ESPN broadcaster.
National broadcast, yep.
You know, so it's funny you bring that up because I've never thought about it until this moment. I would bet that if you were out and about that evening at a local bar that showed Cardinals games, and every local bar in the city shows Cardinals games, you probably didn't see that live that night. Like, that's probably what happened. So I think that bars don't. I think there's this this inability to associate Apple or any of these streaming services with sports. You know, Netflix is getting into it now. I'm assuming probably more people have Netflix, but I'm assuming that most bars that you went to wouldn't turn on Netflix to watch the Jake Paul fight, right? Like, it probably isn't happening. Some will, because it's a really big draw, but most probably don't. And so you're not seeing it. I would venture to guess, and I'll go back to the casual fan again, which we've talked about a lot throughout this podcast. I would venture to guess that most people that work in bars could not tell you where the MLS is being played at. Like, if you went in and said, hey, could you turn on the City game? I bet most of them would say, do we have that? I don't know what channel that's on, right?
Yeah.
Not even realizing that it's on Apple. So I think there's an education that probably would need to happen there to say, well, Apple, we weren't even aware that this was on Apple. So I it wouldn't be on my radar to even get subscribed to that, right? As a bar anyway. So I think that's part of it. And I'm not talking about the soccer bars. I'm talking about, you know, the local pub in O'Fallon or Belleville, right? Like, you just go in and drink beers and watch whatever sport. I don't think they're aware that it's even out there or where to find it at. So that's probably more or less why more bars haven't subscribed to it. There also could be a financial issue there too. It might be expensive for a bar to buy Apple. I don't know. I know that for a bar to buy a pay-per-view, it's a lot more expensive than for you and I to buy a pay-per-view. So maybe there's more of an upcharge commercially to purchase that subscription as opposed to someone just doing it in a residence. So I think it's twofold. Again, there's just no good that comes from it for me personally. I think that the game should be more easily accessible. You could simulcast it. They do it sometimes, but if you simulcasted every local game, the sport would grow. The sport would take off 100%. More. And this is a step, I think, in the right direction, but I don't think it's going to change bars subscribing to Apple.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say. Is I think it's a step in the right direction, but I think as far as still growing the game for those casuals, the story that we always go back to is you were at a casino for your birthday. Down the road from City Park where the team is playing, and not a single person in that casino probably knew that there was a game going on. I can't see a casino being like, yeah, we'll get Apple in here. I can't, that's not going to be a big draw, I feel like, for them. It's going to be your FanDuels and all those types of
right.
So I think it's a step in the right direction. I just still think there's a lot of work still to be done. I will say over the past, this season anyway, Apple has done a better job of having less issues. I think there's still issues
I
going
agree.
on. But you remember,
I agree with that.
First year,
it's way better.
A single game that went by that you were like, "What is going on?"
Yeah, the presentation's better.
So, but I still think it's also. I mean, even now, just to find MLS Season Pass, like it's sometimes you're like, "Where is this thing?" I almost type it in and go. Like, so even if you are a casual and you just happen to have Apple, it wasn't ever really. As the Messi effect kind of dwindled down a little bit, and probably as they saw their numbers dwindling down a little bit, they didn't promote it as much. So, people were just kind of like, even if the casual wouldn't have turned it on and been like, oh, this is where MLS is, it wasn't as broadcast on there. So, step in the right direction, but
they still have to recoup their costs. And you bring up a good point about increasing it because, like, Apple invested a lot of money. What was it? It's like $1 billion, right, for this subscription over 10 years.
Change, yeah.
So it's not going to be a pass through. Like they were charging, what was the cost? Like $8 a month or something for season pass, something along those lines.
Yeah, I think it was like, well, see,
we had it free.
We had it free through our season tickets, but I believe if you were a City Plus member, I believe then it was also included in that. So $50 if you went that route.
Yeah.
So I'd imagine maybe a little bit more expensive generally.
Yeah. So and obviously that price was put in place to recoup the cost that they paid for the sole rights for the league. So the company is not going to just eat whatever cost is, like, they're going to have to recoup it somehow, and that will probably come at the expense of subscription dollars, and they'll, I'm sure, raise it up a little bit. So, we'll see. Again, there's a wait and see thing. It's a step in the right direction, as we said. There's nothing negative that comes from it. As long as it's going to be on there, you might as well make it easily accessible for people. I hope there's a way to log into Apple and be able to find games easier. That would be nice, because that's always been a challenge, especially on the mobile platform, I think. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I think that it's a positive, though. Yeah.
As you said, step in the right direction. So we'll see. I think the ultimate goal has to be getting it to more access, like you said, simulcast with Fox in some sort of way, like they have been with FS1, like your game of the week. Make that just most games, and then maybe you always cover the, like the EPL. They'll have USA has one game, and then the rest of the games during that time slot are on Peacock. But there's always going to be a game. They'll try and fill that whole morning hour, the 6 a.m. game, the 9:30 game, and then the 11:30 game. There's always a game on USA.
Right.
And then the rest of the games that just happen to fall in the 9 o'clock hour and the 11 o'clock hour, they go to Peacock. I hope eventually maybe we get to that point where there's always a game on Fox FS1, whatever it may be, and then the other games possibly fall through. Again, just growing that interest.
But don't you think, and not to belabor this anymore, but don't you think there's another way for people in England to watch games than Peacock? Like, there's got to be.
Well, I'm sure over there it's.
You know what I mean?
It's every channel. Yeah, right. But again, I think these are baby steps.
Yeah, for sure.
Getting it there, because as you said, and it's a good point, that I think FS1 is also going to be. You want us to bump what college football game for this? Nah, we're not. It's gonna. So then you're also going to be. That's a good point. Here in the future, if they do go that route, you're also going to be competing for channels as far as which ones will even show.
Yeah.
Luckily USA doesn't really go for a lot of other sports besides the EPL. So they kind of have that going their way.
Eric, this is officially the longest we've ever talked about soccer consecutively on this show. I just want to throw that out there. 58 minutes worth of it, believe it or not.
Well, you for sure, and but this was like a tailored episode, like I told you, for you, because this is a lot of stuff that I think you bring a lot to, because while you've definitely grown as far as your interest, going into this, you were that casual who was growing into the game, so you have a great kind of aspect of all these storylines coming from what most people in this country probably are or just most fans in general are. While there's interest in the team, the diehards are definitely not outweighing that. So I think your view was the most. I was excited when I saw all this kind of coming through, because you have a good viewpoint from both sides.
Well, I hope I didn't disappoint, Eric. I appreciate it. Any other news that exists out there before we get into Southland submissions today?
No, just one real quick, and I feel bad kind of blowing over this, but like you said, we've already been on it. But we did re-sign defender Josh Yarrow to a 1-year contract extension through 2026 with a club option for 2027. They really emphasized how much of a leader role that he has, and just a good presence in the. I think it's one where I'm okay with 1 year. It still has the little bit of depth, but just his character and everything that he's kind of doing off the field as well, just with leadership role and all that they type of talk. I don't think this is a contract that is signifying they see a big, we'll say, I can't imagine that they're like giving him this contract promising much playing time. I think he's going to be more for a depth role, practice squad, that type of stuff. But, as far as Josh Yarrow, he's always been a stand-up guy, and appreciate everything he does in the community. So I'm good with it. Congrats to Josh for getting that contract extension.
Congrats, Josh Yarrow. We'll see you around at City Park at least for another, year or two. So it's exciting. Eric, why don't you tell the people? We're going to do this. We're going to hit on Ready to Live Wellness, and then we'll get into Felix's Pizza Pub South and submissions. This episode has a tendency to run long. We're going to go really long tonight, it seems like. But if you wouldn't mind, maybe just telling the people about Ready to Live Wellness, we'll kick it off from there.
Yeah, let's do it. Ready to Live Wellness. What more can we say? They're the best place, without a doubt, in this whole area as far as getting your health and physical wellness as well as mental wellness on track. And right now, we always say how they're doing such cool things throughout the week. This week is Bring a Friend week. So if you got a friend and that's already a member there, and
you could bring me, Eric. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Nice.
I thought you were scheduling that time for tomorrow when I'll be there. Maybe we'll discuss it post-show and just clarify those time slots and all that type of stuff. But they're always offering new things, all different wide varieties of styles of working out, classes that they offer. CrossFit, personal training. They've got yoga. They've got Pilates. They've got stretch classes. They've just added in a cold plunge for members with a membership to that. They offer fire and ice classes throughout the time. They have stretch classes, like I said, but they also have things that make sure your body is moving and feeling its best with body movement specialists, PTs, masseuses. And the number one thing that I love about this is just it's all under one spot. A lot of times you need all these different things, or you're wanting to try out all these different places, and you got to go to here, you got to go to there. It's all under one roof. It's at 1530 South Kings Highway Boulevard. So make sure you go check out everybody at Ready to Live Wellness.
That's Ready to Live Wellness, our title sponsor here on South End Supporters. Check them out again at 1530 South Kings Highway Boulevard. Remember, if you are looking to get swole like Eric Cole, you got to check out Ready to Live Wellness. Eric, I will say before I talk about our studio sponsor here, which of course is Warrior Logo Wear, I just bought a sauna, and it will be delivered within the week, and I'm very excited about it. So if you'd like to come over to sweat out some toxins, brother, I have one coming. And I told
two-person?
I do not have a two-person. I told the Monday Morning Center back about this. He was sadly disappointed, as this is only a single-seater. But he's still convinced that we could probably get a couple of grown gentlemen into this sauna at once. So the two-person sauna was on sale, and it was like almost the same price, believe it or not. But I just was like, space-wise, it looked like it was going to take up a lot more. I'm going to put it in my garage. That's where it's going to go. So I decided I just want the individual sauna. So that's what I've got. It's a single-seater. But it's an infrared. I'm excited about it.
You went infrared and stuff?
Infrared,
Do you know what the max temp it gets up to?
It says like 150 or 160, I think.
I think infrared's usually kind of top out.
Yeah, it doesn't get as hot as a traditional sauna, but they are. It's supposed to maybe feel hotter. I don't know, or heat you.
Oh, yeah. You feel like it's hotter. I think the last one I did was only like 125 or something like that. Nothing wild, but I mean, you're in there and you notice it after a little bit. So can't wait for the first South End sweat.
I might record an episode in there if the equipment can handle it. It's going to be warm, but I'm I like. A lot of home saunas are getting popularized now, and I've been looking at them for a while. And you see a lot of everything's a steam sauna. Everything's a steam. To me, that's not a sauna, And I don't like steam rooms anyway. I've been in them before. I don't even know, like, you don't know if you're sweating, I feel like, in that, because you're just wet from the steam. When you're in a dry sauna, you know when you're sweating, right? And like so I'm excited about it. I'm going to put it in the garage. Pretty easy. They're going to install it for me, which is good. And then I'll be able to use it always. So I'm pumped for it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Warrior Logo Wear, they are the studio sponsor of South End Supporters, the official swag sponsor of South End Supporters, and as you're aware of, the official uniform outfitter of my slow pitch men's softball team at 12 East Main Street in Muscuda, Illinois. Chris and the guys there do a fantastic job for all things, not just uniforms. Man, they'll make any kind of shirt you could possibly think of. So I'll tell you this. we're doing a fundraiser for my daughter Scarlett's softball team right now. And the idea behind it is to create a fan club. So you put your fan club, people buy a spot on the back of the shirt saying that they support the player, and do a fan club, listed out individual names, families, or whatever on the back of the shirt. It says Scarlett's Fan Club on top, and then the Gators logo across the front, and a white dry fit. But you could pick any shirt you'd like. You wanted to go cotton, you wanted to take a different color, whatever it may be. This one's going to be a white dry fit, navy lettering on it to go with our color scheme. And then on the back will be navy with the fan club. And man, they just got it done. It was just like, yeah, you tell us what you want. And I'm like, I'm not real good at designing the logo, all this stuff. Send me the JPEG. We'll get the logo on it. We'll come up with the design for you for the back of it. They sent me the spec. I approved, paid, done. And I don't know if you were aware of this, Eric, but there were no hidden fees whenever I negotiated these price point with Warrior Logo Wear either.
You know that is our favorite part of Warrior Logo Wear.
It's the worst. Hidden fees are the worst. We hate them. Warrior Logo Wear hates them. That's why you should go check them out at 12 East Main Street in Muscuda, Illinois. I also want to talk briefly about Elite FT, 101 The Game Drive, Glen Carbon, Illinois, inside of the Sports Academy. We know them as the Elite News and Notes from the Back Post. We talked a little bit about some of the comings and goings of the league. We probably could have used that as the Elite News and Notes segment, but I think it's important to just speak briefly about them. Your brother is a part of that organization, correct? Doing a lot of the training. They are a prominent name in the Metro East soccer community anyway. Dave usually talks about Elite FT, but Eric, if you wouldn't mind maybe just sharing a little bit about your experiences with that group.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic organization, Justin, over there. He's doing everything right as far as what we talk about is growing the game and just getting kids excited, improving upon their skills. Their Bosco's Buddies is such a great program as far as introducing your kids to the game, getting them more familiar with the rules, and just making it in such an exciting way that they have fun while doing it. And their coaches there, you can tell that they truly have a passion for a game as well, and it rubs off on those kids. But let's say your kid's been experienced with the game and just is looking to improve upon certain skills. They offer many different styles of trainings to improve upon that. Speed and agility, touch, all that's going to continue to grow your skills off the game, just outside of practice and everything as well. So if you're looking to just improve, get introduced, anything that is involving the game of soccer for your kids, there's no better place. And sometimes those Bosco Buddies, when they're young enough, parents get out there and get involved as well, like I did with our kids, and it helps you get invested in the game as well. And anytime that you're seeing that smile on their kid's face while you're playing, London Bridge is falling down as they kick the ball between your legs and you fall, I will warn you, try and get them invested while you're a little younger, so it's also easier for you to get up from that as well. But just a great program. Make sure you check out everybody at Elite FT if you're looking to get those kids in the game.
Elite FT, the sponsor of Elite News and Notes from the Back Post, 101 The Game Drive, inside of the Sports Academy in Glen Carbon, Illinois. Lastly, before we get into Felix's Pizza Pub, South and submissions, we have nothing to preview, so the match week preview is out the door. Because there's really nothing to talk about in terms of that, because City's not playing soccer anymore this year, Eric. But there's always time on this presentation to talk about kolaches, and nobody does kolaches like St. Louis Kolache at 1530 South Kirkwood Road in Sunset Hills. I love those things.
You know, it might not be a bad idea is you get a room temperature box of kolaches, you take them into that infrared sauna with you, and as that 150 might be just the right amount of temperature.
You just want me to use the infrared sauna as a microwave now?
So, while you're in there, I mean, why waste time in case you
true.
don't want to have to pop out, cool yourself down just to get a snack and then come back? You might as well just take those babies in there. But
no, it's a great point. It's a great point. You could do that with a leftover slice from Felix's as well. There's a lot of uses for the sauna. I don't know if it defeats the purpose of being in the sauna if you're going to eat the kolache in there, but I like where your head's at, and it would
keep telling yourself it's sweating right out.
Sweating right out.
We just are running gambit. We get you working out with Ready to Live Wellness, and then we get you eating and warming up your kolaches in your infrared sauna as you go along. But we got you covered on no matter what way you're looking to go.
I know you think about it this way, right? You go to Ready to Live Wellness, you get your workout in, and then your shirt doesn't fit right anymore. It's too big. So now you got to go to Warrior Logo Wear, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got to get a smaller shirt. But then you go and eat kolaches, and the shirt is too tight. Now you got to go back to Warrior logo wear, right? Because the shirt's too tight. Now you got to lose weight. So you get your kid enrolled in Bosco Buddies, and you're out there running around the indoor pitch with them. You start to get trim again. You go back to Warrior logo wear because you need new shirts, right? Because now they're fitting too loose again. And then all of a sudden you go to Felix's and all hell breaks loose because you're eating pizza and you're drinking beers and you're eating wings and the shirt doesn't fit anymore because it's too tight again. Now you got to go back to Warrior logo. So you see, it's just cyclical. This is the way it works.
That's just one Friday. You start off at Ready to Live Wellness in the morning, and then you hit up Warrior logo wear. You stop by STL Kolache, and you get your some kolaches up, back to Warrior logo wear. Hit up Elite OT in that afternoon, and then when you're watching those games at night, you wash it down with some beautiful pizza and wings with some cold beer to end off the night. We've got your day covered on Fridays.
That's it. And if you're doing it the right way, you're not going to get any wing sauce on the shirt because you'll be eating Drummies, which we know is a cleaner wing, and you can get award-winning wings at Felix's Pizza Pub, 6401 Clayton Avenue in Dogtown. They bring you the South in submissions every single week on this program. The best pizza and wings you're going to find. Hey, still a City on Tap bar. I don't know if that means anything moving forward with the MLS season pass not going to be there, but I'm assuming they're going to have the games. You'll be able to watch them at Felix's in 2026, 2027, whatever year it may be. Enjoy a slice or an entire pie. You want to probably have help with that, I would imagine. But the wings, the jalapeno ranch drizzle, it's all so good. The people are amazing at Felix's Pizza Pub at 6401 Clayton Avenue in Dogtown. Eric, what do we have today for our Southland submissions?
Well, first, could you imagine the dangerous hazards if you're a flats person trying to work the buttons in a sauna? You're slipping all over the place, hitting the wrong button. Next thing you know, you're cooked. You can't open the door because your hands are slipping all. Just
it's dangerous, is what we're saying.
It's dangerous. Like we look out for your health and wellness all throughout this episode.
Yes,
but yeah,
we do.
We will kick off this week's South End submissions with an OG, Mr. Andy Sharoni or my Sharoni. He said thoughts on the new schedule change and foods you want at City Park. So we've already covered the schedule change, and we kind of gave our thoughts on that. And we've kind of answered before foods we want at City Park. But I thought we could still go to this one because now with the new schedule change, you could be also changing your opinion on what foods you may be wanting due to the colder months and everything like that going forward. So maybe one that I would suggest is maybe like a boozy hot chocolate stand or something to that effect, to where you're getting the warm. I think they may have hot chocolate there. I don't know if it's boozy. I think in the west side, I think they offer that in the nicer stuff. But yeah, I think you're looking more towards warm now, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I would think so. I don't know what just happened to my camera. Am I coming through okay, Eric?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay, I don't know what happened. I'm usually not the one that has technical difficulties, but for whatever reason, that happened here today. Yeah, I think anything warm. Maybe you'll see a soup vendor in there, Eric, or you could get chili or something. I don't know. The answer for me is always Felix's Pizza and St. Louis Kolaches. That's what I want, kolaches and pizza. But, other foods, yeah, I think that anything that you could think of that could warm you up, maybe some warm cocktails. You mentioned a boozy hot chocolate. There's other things out there. I like mixing a little rum chata in a hot chocolate or a coffee. That's always been nice too. That's really good. Something like that. Something that keeps you warm, during the brutal winter months you're going to be playing soccer outdoors for.
Yeah. And man, just some hot kolaches just perfectly cupped in the hands as the game's going on, and then you don't have to worry about, taking the hands out of the gloves to eat them. You just, that'd be
real nice.
It'd be like some nice hand warmers just going in there, but
edible hand warmers.
Edible hand warmers. We'll get the marketing department on.
Yeah, get it.
Next, we'll go to the road dog, Matthew Keller. He said, "Morning, y'all. Coming to you from Raleigh, North Carolina today. So I have a European soccer question for you. We know they tried to make a Super League, and it failed pretty dramatically. Well, if y'all could make your own Super League, who would you put in it? To keep this a little more fun, here are a few rules. It's a 20-team league, 16 from the 5 major, England, Spain, France, Germany, Italy. The rest of the other leagues, no more than 4 teams from one league. Have fun. Can't wait to hear this. Whoo, boy. 20-team league, 16 from the 5 majors. The rest from other leagues, no more than 4 teams. So, let's run through England first. So we'll go, obviously, Manchester United, or else the league would fail without them in there. I think you'd have to put still my top biggest clubs in England. So I'd go United, Liverpool, and then probably the 2 Londons, Arsenal and Chelsea. I think right now globally, as far as a marketing standpoint as well as a skill level, I'd put them there. Spain, I think you go Madrid, Barcelona, Atletico Madrid, and probably Atletico Bilbao right now. France, I mean PSG and Monaco, and then whoever else, because that's just such a waste of a league. Germany, you've got to go Bayern Munich, Dortmund, Leverkusen. I'm trying to think of like a team that's like good but just hasn't been there in a while. Let me think on that one. Italy, AC Milan, Inter Milan, and this is where it's tough. I think you got to go Juventus and I want to throw Roma in there, but they just haven't been relevant for so many years. Napoli's really taken over that spot. So I think if you're going competition standpoint, you go Napoli. And then, we'll just say 16 there. So I got 4 more. Obviously, St. Louis City SC. You got
obviously. Thank you. Glad somebody said it.
Yeah, that'd be if they United and Manchester United and St. Louis City. Otherwise, that league's just going to fail.
Mm-hmm.
Probably a Mexican league team. You got to branch out a little bit. I'm trying to think of. You probably got to throw a Mexican league team in there, a Brazilian league team, and then probably, you know what? Screw it. I'll throw Celtic in there from the Scottish league. We'll go. Let's just say Tigres and then we'll go. I think Flamengo is the biggest one in Brazilian league. We'll go that.
What about the Club America in Mexico?
Oh yeah, you're right. That was stupid. Club America for sure.
Thank you. I'm glad I contributed to this. That's all I've got, by the way.
You contributed St. Louis City.
I was thinking it.
Yeah, you had it there. It was just you didn't want to interrupt me when I was on a roll.
Right.
But yeah, that would be an interesting to think of like a global Super League, because the one they were talking about was still mainly sticking to Europe and all that. But yeah, that'd be a good one. I mean, I'd never want to see it happen because it would just be terrible for the world. But I think I'm missing. I'm curious to see what Dave's
it'd be a good one for
answers
him.
wouldn't be in there, because he's gone way down you want to talk about grabbing all sorts of different streaming services.
The guy's watching like Peruvian Premier League or something.
Dude,
it's insane.
He would probably come up with the most obscure. He'd be like, "You got to check out this team that's sitting down in Peru right now. They're coming up, and then let me get this South African team in there. And, you know, I hear India's league's picking up pretty good. Like he would.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, he would have some weird answers in there probably at this point. So yeah, that'd be a good one we'll get his opinion on it and tell him how wrong he probably is, because he'll exclude like major teams that should be, but he's too.
And he would hate your list too, I'm sure.
Oh, he hated it from the first team I shouted out. He was like, erroneous. They haven't been relevant for you. I can hear him now as we go. But next, we'll move on to our Discord, No Goal Patrol Discord. We'll kick it off with Fetlord Colton. Great one here. He said, "What food competition or food-related show is your favorite to watch?"
Oh.
So I thought I had an answer, and then I scrolled down and I saw somebody else's answer, and it was like, oh, that is the obvious choice there. And you and I have the biggest connection to said show.
People don't realize how much of a part of our lives food shows were at one point.
Yes.
I mean, we watched so much Man vs. Food back in the day. I don't remember watching as much Bizarre Foods with you, and also Andrew Bourdain.
I got into that later. Andrew Bourdain.
Anthony Bourdain. Andrew Zimmern on Bizarre Foods and Anthony Bourdain on No Reservations, and I had a couple other shows too. But anyway, I loved Man versus Food was just so good. But I loved Anthony Bourdain's shows too, and I liked Bizarre Foods. I wouldn't eat most of the stuff that was on that show, but man, something about Man versus Food, like the energy that Adam Richman had, like the traveling and just seeing the different places, but like going into local spots that, I mean, when he did St. Louis's episode, I had never heard of the Iron Barley, but you better believe I went to the Iron Barley after it, right?
Exactly.
Like, it just was something, I don't know, unique and cool about that. And I miss those Travel Channel shows. They were great.
So it wasn't too long ago. I was just having like a what do I want on in the background kind of deal. And I was flipping through just like the guide, and I saw Man versus Food, and I got excited, and not to, down it was that Casey, I think his name's Casey, but it just didn't. So then I realized that on demand, Man versus Food with the Adam Richman episodes are on there.
Oh, nice.
And so that, for a while, was like my background. Couple others that some people have had in here. I haven't ever watched any like Guy Fieri, like Flavor Towns or Diners, Dives and Dashes, something like that. Like, I haven't watched this one.
Yeah.
One that I've kind of forgot about was like the old school Iron Chef.
Did you
ever get into watching that? Like that was always like pretty.
I didn't, but the guy that did that show has a restaurant in Vegas, and we've talked about going to it. But I never watched. But I never watched it though. No.
Interesting. Yeah, and I mean, there's so many good ones. The other one that obviously I kind of joked about it recently. The Great British Bake Off. Like during
you like that
quarantine and during the winter months, especially, it was cold, and just like flipping on a season like of that, and just the problem is like you can't watch it late at night because then you're looking through your cupboards to see if you have those ingredients, and you're like, oh yeah, I'll make a dozen shortbread cookies right now with this layering. And
there's some good barbecue shows out there too that I like, but I just, something about those three in particular that I mentioned, like No Reservations, Bizarre Foods, and Man versus Food, because they travel
back.
I know they always went right. You could watch all of them in order.
It almost reminded of like our high school days when you had Punk'd, Viva La Bam, and then Wild Boys. Sunday night, they just ran back to back.
And MTV, by the way, MTV's like going away, by the way.
Well, that's what happens when you put 23 hours dedicated to ridiculousness.
They canceled that show. It's gone.
Well, because they were I heard they were paying him like $22 million.
I know, dude. I saw Chanel West Coast get interviewed, and I forget the number, but what she was making per episode was just insane.
Oh, I'm sure it was
just insane. And they did so many episodes. There's like 1 million seasons of that show.
Oh, you imagine us trying to describe what MTV meant to us when we were younger to like our kids now. They'd just be like,
they don't get it.
Like, it's like it stands for music television. Like,
so, Scarlett.
TRL was like how we knew what was good.
We threw an episode of TRL on the other day for the kids. They had it on. Found one on YouTube. Scarlett said this not that long ago, because we watch a lot of music videos. She loves music, right? So we watch. There's still music videos. They're just on YouTube. People still produce them. They're still out there. They're made. And she said, she goes, it'd be really cool if there was a channel that just played music videos all day. And I was like, that's like, why hasn't anyone thought of that before, Scarlett? So
yeah. R.I.P. to those music channels. But what is still living on is those food channels. So
yeah.
Check all those out. Those are great. But we're gonna, as always, keep on the topic of food because our main Jay Clem. That's probably what happened to your camera, is the Jay Clem.
Oh yeah, there he is.
You haven't been struck by them yet. So
no, but it says device is struggling to record, so I'm not sure what happened, but I'm assuming he's probably involved in some way.
That's what we always assume. But he came in with a thinker here. It's, what is the best form of potato? Baked, mashed, fries, tots, etc.
I like potatoes, Eric. I love them. And I've never met a form of potato that I don't like. It's a weakness of mine.
We were talking about, like, Kristen's kind of getting like together the list of like Thanksgiving stuff, and she was like, should I make a sweet potato casserole? And I'm like, I mean, do you like it? She's like, yeah. I'm like, then, I mean, who's going to say no to another form of potato being put on the table?
I've been at restaurants before and I've ordered fries and mashed potatoes, and they're like, "You want both of those?" I'm like, "I do. Yeah, I do." I like them all, man. Like in the breakfast setting, I like a home fry, but I also like a scattered hash brown. That's always nice too. I love tots, which tots to me, tots is one of the most underutilized forms of potato, because tots can be a breakfast potato, but you don't like a tot is no different than like a McDonald's hash brown chopped up in a different,
just different,
you know what I mean?
Shape. Mm-hmm.
But you never see it on breakfast menus. Like tots should be used more. It's underutilized. I like sweet potato fries. I like sweet potatoes. I like, a traditional mashed. I think that if I were really looking for like what's my favorite potato, there was a place in Mascoutah. It's not there anymore. It was called Spuds, and it was a baked potato restaurant. And all they did were specialty loaded potatoes. So to me, give me a big baked, and the potatoes, by the way, were enormous. Give me a big baked potato and put a lot of stuff in it. That's probably my answer.
Yeah, it's kind of popular over in Europe. You see a lot with like food trucks, is like you walk up and like customize your baked potato. Probably more so like in Ireland or Scotland and stuff. But like, I think somebody brought in a good point, and I'm trying to find it in here, but they brought up like a good point of like, it really depends on what's accompanying said potato for what I would find as the best potato. Because if I'm out like I'd still never turn down fries, but sometimes like different dishes, you're kind of like, a mashed potato would really accompany this better than such as like a French fry, So I think I think that one more to me goes with like what is accompanying it. But I'm also very similar to you, where I don't really have a potato that I don't not like. I like most every potato. The only times I weirdly enough get off with potatoes if you try to dress it up too much, adding too much on top of the potato, whether it's a baked potato, mashed potatoes, any of that type of stuff. That's where sometimes I can be a little bit like turned away from the potato. Looks like a lot of the answers in here are kind of similar to like what we just said there. It seems like wedges. That's one that, is another one that's kind of like you don't hear as much about. But again, it's basically just, your fried potato in half kind of deal. So there's gnocchi. That's one that I never really dived into and never really, I guess that would maybe be one that I'm just not as big a fan of, is like gnocchi. But I
enjoy a gnocchi.
Credit,
I enjoy a gnocchi.
Do you?
I do.
Okay, do you? Yeah, I guess I've just haven't had it maybe enough to appreciate.
It's good. I mean, it's like a pasta potato,
Yeah, we cook them for the guys at work a lot of the time, and it maybe watching them eat it is what deterred me from wanting to eat it there. But that's probably, I would say, the form of potato that I have experienced the least. But to me, any sort of potato where it's such a good thing on its own, where I can just be a little deterred from the potato is if you try to add too much to it, make it too fancy. That's where I can kind of like maybe get out. But we're getting right to that. The potato's time to shine, and Thanksgiving. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Big holiday for the potato.
You can go. The other great thing about a potato is, let's just take mashed potatoes, for instance. Let's just say, as we've done in the past, we've tried to calm it down a little bit. Let's just say you have 4 Thanksgivings. You could go to each Thanksgiving and still have mashed potatoes, and they're prepared so differently that you almost don't get sick of them in a way. Like, it's a very versatile food, and it seems like a lot of people, wedges, like I said, coming in here. A show that I never heard of that Jerry brings up. Have you ever heard of this Alton Brown's old show, Good Eats, about the science and history and technique behind cooking?
No, but I like Alton Brown. I don't know that show, so I'd have to check that out. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, it does. And then right below that is just like somebody put a picture of Adam Richman, Fettlord Colton, and he's just hiding behind a massive pile of potatoes. So
they're really interwoven, those two. The food shows and the favorite potato. I like it. Good stuff.
Exactly. Jay Clem comes in with one where he says, if City were to ever rebrand, what would you want them to rebrand to and why? So I'm going to assume he doesn't, he's talking all encompassing, and because we've already kind of talked about like jersey sponsors, and that's not necessarily a City thing. I'm thinking he's meaning like, all together. Do you have an answer on that? I think I have a couple.
I mean, they're St. Louis City. Like, what are they going to I don't know what they would rebrand to. Like,
well, my only thing that I think that they, as far as branding goes, is I was never, and this is just obviously a personal reason for me, I've never been a big fan of City. And it's just because every time I talk about them, they're like, oh, Manchester City. No, I always have to clarify, like, this city or that city. And that's that. I wish there was another one, because obviously I would say like United, but then people would still be like, oh, are you talking about Manchester United, St. Louis United? Like, I don't know. So that would be the one. But the big one for me is the rebrand they tried, go back to City Park. Just don't ever touch City Park. Leave that alone. So I would say if I would, but I was always good with like the color scheme. I was fine with, I don't think there's anything that they've really done that I've just been fully against, other than the stadium rebrand.
Yeah, I mean,
from the beginning, I wasn't a fan of City, like I said, but that was just more a personal reason. But it's obviously grown on me as a little bit. So I don't know if there would be anything.
Yeah, I think that United would be tricky, because what would be the abbreviation there? SLU? I mean, you got an SLU already. That's SLU. That's St. Louis University. So City, to me, makes sense. I don't care. I used to be like, we should have a mascot name, but nobody else does, and the ones that do sound kind of silly. So I'm all for what they've got going on right now. It's fine. The only thing, the color, it could be a little redder, but it's unique. It's not bad. But for the most part, it's pretty solid, I think.
You just said they couldn't just throw a U on it, and I was like, well, they could also just add the T in there, and then I was like, nah, they could not just add the T.
Could not add the T,
because I don't know.
You
if
could
that
not add the T at the end.
Television
it
market.
Would not be good.
Although that would be funny for the casual fans.
It would be.
Checking out the game.
It would be.
They'd be like, you know what? I don't know what that team is, but I'm pulling for them.
This isn't where I parked my car.
Yeah. Fat Lord Colton has another one. He says, what movie or TV show character would be worth picking up Thor's hammer? And honestly, Fat Lord Colton kind of might have my answer in here, and he's got a picture of Sam picking up Frodo, and of all the people who are well deserving of that, I mean, Sam from Lord of the Rings would be one. But as far as picking up Thor's hammer, like TV show or character, I'm trying to think, because which one would like that? I don't know. Because a lot of the TV shows I'm thinking of are like I don't know, Michael Scott picking up Thor's hammer. Like that would be.
Yeah, I don't even understand the reference. I am aware of Thor and the hammer. I've never seen any of the movies. You lost me when you started talking about Lord of the Rings.
I'm sure you were like, I don't know.
It's not for me.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with whatever your answer is, Eric, I think is the right one.
Is there, okay, let me try and break it down to you. Is there a TV show character or movie character in your mind that there's a certain object that only people that are truly worthy and strong enough to handle could pick up said object? Is there anyone that stands out to you that you're like, that character was truly worthy and strong to be able to handle such great power?
How about Michael Scott's World's Best Boss mug? Nobody else should be able to sip out of that.
I do like the fact of thinking that the second he does grab said thing, it morphs into World's Best Boss and has still all capabilities and powers of Thor's hammer. I do like where your head's going there.
Andy Bernard wasn't the world's best boss.
No, he vacationed and went away and never told anybody.
Yep.
So you're right. Went through a lot of bosses there. And then the last one I'll have for tonight is from our man KVK, Kyle Van Clay from No Goal Patrol. He said, have we ever asked, what is your favorite Ninja Turtle? Were you a big Ninja Turtle guy? I know Dave.
I was.
Were you?
I was. But here's the thing, man. I was a contrarian. Like, I was, whatever anybody else liked, I liked the other one.
Okay.
And I kind of don't like that about myself because I'm not like that anymore. But that's how I was when I was little. So I think the answer most people would give would be Michelangelo. I'm pretty sure. That was like my least favorite turtle growing up. I was a Raphael fan. Okay.
See, I thought Raphael was everybody's.
No, Raphael was the serious
or
one.
Obviously Leonardo because
He was like the leader.
Leader and that type of stuff.
And I knew a couple of kids that were like really smart growing up. They were like big Donatello fans. Like he was a little bit more cerebral. But like Michelangelo was the fun one. Michelangelo was the one that was like always ordering the pizza and like doing all the goofy stuff, you know. Raphael was like really serious and kind of hard.
Yeah, the token.
Yeah. So I was a Raphael guy.
Yeah.
I was a Raphael guy. I liked the he had the size. That was the weapon that he used. I like that. But see, everybody liked the.
Is that what they're called?
Yeah, size. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Everyone liked the nunchucks, right? Nunchucks were super cool. Well, Michelangelo had the nunchucks, so those were a little bit easier. Like you could carry around nunchucks, you couldn't carry around little tridents in your hand, you know. So I think Michelangelo just probably appealed to more people. I was a Raphael guy.
See, so first time being introduced to Ninja Turtles, what actually I guess I lean more towards, and it definitely wasn't for the intellectual abilities. It was I'm drawing a blank on his name now, Donatello.
Oh yeah,
because I could go out in the backyard, and grab a stick.
Yep,
and
good.
I could be,
It's a good call.
You know, going that route, or God forbid, around this time of year, especially when your mom finished with that wrapping paper roll.
Yeah,
I mean, right there, you had it up. But as I grew older, and more so once I got into skateboarding especially, that's where I drew towards Michelangelo, was because every picture that I would ever see him in, or like toys or that type of stuff, he came with a skateboard. And so that was like where it wasn't more so for the nunchucks, because I think if anything, I was always like when I used to play the old Nintendo Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game, like first Nintendo, I always felt that like the swords were a little bit easier as far as that. So that was always like the cool thing, I guess.
I mean, swords are badass. Like, let's be real.
Yeah, but what did you say that Raphael's?
They were called size.
See, I always figured those were like the least functional as far as
They definitely
like,
are.
You know, I guess to your point, like, but I don't know. I just knew that if I was ever a kid who got a hold of nunchucks, I would be. I mean, the foreheads and the shins would just be constantly getting whacked on my own doing. So, like, I don't think it was necessarily the weapons that drew me. It was more, I guess, the personality and then the that type of stuff. So I would probably go Michelangelo. But, you know, there's
no wrong answer.
That's a good thing about them. Yeah, that's a good thing about them is they all have great qualities. That's why they were such a pivotal part, I think, of like our age group's childhood.
Yeah. Agreed. Well, good episode of South End Submissions. It's one of the longest episodes I think we've ever done, Eric.
Yeah, I think I lost you again, David. But yes, great episode. Honestly, a lot of fun. A lot of things to talk about on this one. That's why we wanted to make sure we got on it. A lot of big changes, possible changes coming to the league. It'll be interesting to see kind of here in the next couple weeks how things sort of play out. Are we going to get kind of more in detail answers to this type of stuff and all that type of stuff going forward? So we're looking forward to it, and we'll keep you updated as things come out and we cover them. We want to thank you so much for listening to the show. We truly do appreciate it. We also really appreciate all the sponsors of the show, starting out with our title sponsors, Ready to Live Wellness. Check them out at 1530 South Kings Highway Boulevard, or on their socials at R2L Wellness, as well as our studio sponsor and swag sponsor, Warrior Logo Wear. Check them out at 12 East Main Street in Mascoutah, Illinois, to get all that custom swag your way. We touched on STL Kolache. Make sure you go get those warm kolaches and try and sneak them into City Park at 1530 South Kirkwood Road in St. Louis. We also touched on getting those kids involved in the game and growing the beautiful game at Elite FT. Check them out at 101 The Game Drive or EliteFT.com. And then we just wrapped up our Felix's Pizza Pub South End submissions with a lot of great submissions. We do appreciate you guys sending those in. Make sure you keep up with all things South End Supporters on all of our socials and follow us along there. On Instagram, we're South End Supporters. On Twitter and Reddit, we're capital SES_podcast STL. And then make sure you also check our Facebook and our YouTube page as well to keep up with all things South End supporters. So, for myself, Eric Cole, for DH David Heck, and for our buddy, the Monday morning center back Dave Wyckoff, who's out tonight, you've been listening to South End Supporters, and until next week, let's go City.